Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to completely shift the way we look at the aesthetics industry. Because when you really dive into the science of it all, you kind of have to toss out the idea that aesthetics is just this simple cosmetic luxury. We're going to look at it for what it truly is, a highly serious, medical-grade discipline of public health.
Okay, let's jump right into our blueprint for today. We'll be covering 1. The medical-grade mindset. 2. Invisible threats in aesthetics. 3. The first line of defense. 4. The Universal Sanitation Workflow. 5. Service-specific safety protocols. And finally, 6. Compliance by design. We're tracing this whole path, starting from the microscopic biology of the skin, right up to the strict systems that protect you and your clients.
Section 1. The medical-grade mindset, a professional mandate. To kick things off, we really have to anchor ourselves in the biological reality of what an esthetician actually works with every day. The skin isn't just a canvas, it's this massive, living organ. And more importantly, it's the primary immunological barrier, keeping our internal organs safe from external pathogens.
Now, treating the skin with that level of respect isn't just some nice ideal to have, it's literally the law. It's baked straight into regulatory frameworks, like Kentucky's KRS 317A, for example, which makes it crystal clear that an esthetician's license is a legal mandate. Every time you step into that treatment room, you are stepping into a role where you have to protect the public's health and safety at all costs. You are, quite literally, a guardian of public health.
Which brings us to the concept of iatrogenic vulnerability. It's a big term, but here's what it means. The skin has this natural acid mantle that repels pathogens. But when you do a procedure, say a chemical peel or microdermabrasion, you are intentionally stripping away that protective stratum corneum to get those therapeutic results. And in doing so, you're creating this incredibly dangerous temporary vulnerability. That exposed skin needs a perfectly sterile environment to stay completely uncontaminated while it heals.
Moving right along to Section 2, invisible threats in aesthetics, specifically the biological and chemical risks. Having that medical mindset really changes how we view the severe, invisible dangers that are just lurking in a spa setting if things aren't locked down.
Let's talk about the terrifying persistence of biological risks. We're talking about MRSA, a highly resistant bacteria, just hanging out on non-porous surfaces for days or even weeks. Or hepatitis B. That's a blood-borne virus that can survive in a dried state on a surface for over 7 days. 7 days. Then you've got fungus like tinea that persists for months and parasites like lice surviving 24 to 48 hours. When you're dealing with pathogens that stubborn, guesswork is absolutely never an option.
But hey, the risks aren't just biological. We've got elementary chemistry to manage too. Think about the risk of horrific chemical burns from improperly timed alpha and beta hydroxy acids, or severe sensitization and contact dermatitis. And we can't forget the equipment. Did you know a poorly maintained facial steamer can harbor Legionella bacteria or literally spit boiling water, causing sudden, second-degree thermal burns on a client's face? Or that misusing the vacuum pressure on a microdermabrasion machine can cause permanent tram track bruising? It's an environment where precision is just everything.
All right, Section 3, the first line of defense, the pre-service protocol. Because of all these massive risks, your true safety net is actually set up before a tool ever even touches the client's skin.
We're talking about the Universal Pre-Service Protocol. It's your auditable step-by-step checklist. Step 1. It starts the second they walk in with greeting and mandatory hand sanitation. Step 2. A deep dive into their health history. Step 3. A visual skin analysis using a magnifying loupe to hunt for contraindications. Step 4 is tactile analysis of the skin's texture. And Step 5, rigorous documentation of every single finding. Doing all of this establishes your defensible baseline record before a single drop of product is applied.
Now, this brings up a super critical question. We work in an industry famous for pampering and saying yes to the client, right? But when do you absolutely have to say no? Well, this introduces the authority to refuse. And make no mistake, that authority is entirely a matter of public health, not customer service.
Think about the absolute contraindications. If a client has used Accutane within the last 6 to 12 months, their skin is incredibly fragile. A standard waxing procedure could literally lift the skin right off. Yikes. Spotting active herpes simplex, cold sores, or undiagnosed lumps, severe sunburn, windburn, or parasitic infestations like lice, these require immediate service modification or outright refusal. Recognizing these red flags is your ultimate shield against catastrophic liability.
So,
How do we measure safety? With precise metrics. Take the number 20. That is the absolute minimum 20 seconds of vigorous hand washing required immediately before serving any patron. According to Kentucky state regulations, that means warm water, liquid soap, and aggressively scrubbing under the nails and wrists for 20 seconds. It sounds basic, I know, but hand hygiene is literally the single most critical component of infection control.
Section 4. The Universal Sanitation Workflow. Clean, disinfect, store. Let's pivot from identifying those invisible risks to the actual daily habits you need to systematically crush them.
We've got to clear up a vital industry difference here: cleaning versus disinfecting. Cleaning is just the mechanical removal of visible debris, skin cells, and product residue using soap and water. Disinfecting uses an EPA-registered chemical solution to actually kill the microorganisms on non-porous surfaces. The golden rule: cleaning is a strict prerequisite. You literally cannot disinfect a tool that hasn't been cleaned first, because that physical gunk will block the chemical from ever reaching the surface of the tool.
And everything in that treatment room has to be classified by material. Non-porous items, your stainless steel extractors, hard plastics, glass, those can be fully disinfected. But porous items, things like wooden spatulas, paper, cotton pads, they absorb biological material. They cannot be disinfected, which means they are strictly single-use. If a porous item touches a client, boom, straight into the trash immediately to prevent cross-contamination.
So you put that all together and you get the 3-step full sanitation workflow: clean, disinfect, and store. And this workflow, completely non-negotiable. Implements get mechanically cleaned, then fully immersed in an EPA-registered bactericidal, virucidal, and fungicidal solution. Finally, they get thoroughly rinsed, dried, and stored in a covered, labeled container so they stay pristine. Once again, metrics matter. The number 10 here refers to the typical contact time required for disinfection. Tools have to remain completely wet or fully immersed in that solution for the exact time specified by the manufacturer, which is almost always exactly 10 minutes. Cut that short, and pathogens, like our old friend hepatitis B, might just survive to infect your next client.
Which brings us to Section 5, Service-Specific Safety Protocols, Managing Vectors. Because every single service presents its own unique vectors for infection, a true center of excellence has to establish highly tailored protocols for each one.
Let's look at how this plays out in practice. During facials, double dipping into product jars is strictly prohibited. Extractions are semi-invasive, so gloves and immediate antiseptics are mandatory to prevent scarring and infection. For chemical peels, you've got to track the exact pH and have a neutralizing agent on standby to stop the acid's action instantly. And waxing, enforcing the absolute one-stick, one-dip rule is critical. It's the only way to prevent massive cross-contamination and burn risks from communal wax pots. And finally, Section 6, Compliance by Design, the defensible record. Let's close this out by looking at how elite institutions design their actual environments to make these rigid protocols foolproof.
Research shows that failures usually stem from a complacency gap, basically when practitioners prioritize speed over safety on a busy day. But by adopting a compliance by design model, clinics just eliminate that gap. They use smart operational setups, hands-free soap dispensers, color-coded bins for dirty tools, pre-measured chemical packets. It literally makes it harder to fail than to succeed, drastically cutting down human error without slowing down the business.
An inspection-ready facility makes safety an everyday, thoughtless habit. That means common, critical state board violations are completely off the table. We're talking about avoiding simple but massive failures, like not having your license posted with a current photo, or storing clean and dirty implements in the exact same drawer. Using prohibited UV sterilizers instead of actual wet disinfectants, huge no-no. Or even something as simple as failing to have a closed lid on the trash can. We've seen today just how deep the science of sanitation truly goes. The skin is a complex, living barrier, and every single time an esthetician touches it, they are literally holding that client's health in their hands. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. If the skin is your client's ultimate biological shield, is your sanitation blueprint invincible enough to protect it? Challenge yourself to adopt this medical-grade mindset and elevate your practice to a true center of excellence. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.